Almost two-thirds of Americans say the U.S. is headed in the wrong direction. And a big reason for that cynicism is the economy, which at first glance is strange because corporate America says the economy is doing well. Axios reports on that sentiment from statements and earning calls with some of the nation's top brands last week. The CEO of PNC Bank says consumer spending has been remarkably resilient. Ultimately, this is driving a sound economy.
Resilient. It's a great word. I love these words they use, right? Economy is resilient. I bet, if I'm watching this for the first time, they're going to say about 20% of Americans are holding up the economy. Because what we're seeing, unless you're blind and you can't really see what's happening in the world right now, we're seeing that Americans are losing jobs. There are not many jobs being replaced right now. Technology is getting better, right? And we know that the more technology continues to grow, that more and more jobs are going to be taken away. So I'm just curious, who are they talking about? Let's find out.
And the chief financial officer of GM told investors, we expect next year to be even better than 2025. But if you out there are sitting at home and scratching your head over that, you're not alone at all. A new estimate from Moody's says it is only the top 10% of households driving that spending. In fact, that same top 10% now account for nearly half of all spending.
Half of all spending. Wow. 10%. I was wrong. I thought 20. 10%. Half of all spending. This is what this tells me, because we're seeing it across the board, right? We're seeing it in tourism, in home buying, travel across the board, still travel, tourism, same thing. People aren't spending money. I actually am moving forward a little bit here. Like, what is the hottest retail season of the year going to look like? Christmas. I'm very interested to see those numbers, because right now we know that furloughs and the government shutdown is happening. And again, that's a small subset of people, but I'm not about to buy gifts versus buying food. So if the shutdown continues, and we already know that the jobs market is vastly underperforming, and the cost of goods seemingly, I think there's some stagnation happening. They've leveled out on things are getting more expensive right now, but it doesn't look like things are coming down. There has been talk of gas being a little cheaper in some areas, not California. But at the end of the day, those wealthy people, those top 10%, I have a feeling that number is going to shrink. It's probably smaller than we think. It's probably like 3 to 4%. But this is the reality, right? We know that inflation, if you don't know what inflation is, when the government prints money, right? They want to print more money right now. Inflation is as high as ever been. Now, it was highest in the 1980s too, but that's a long time ago. That's 30, almost 40 years from now, right? We've seen inflation just go through the roof. And I think finally it's getting to the point where this has happened in other countries where hyperinflation is starting to occur, right? Mixed in with the loss of jobs and jobs not being as readily available. I can only imagine how many applicants people are getting in for. I mean, it's interesting. I go to the grocery store and there's tons of people there. Is the grocery store sector, is that being affected? Because there's hardly anybody that works at these places. All the aisles only have one cashier in it. It's just, something's happening right now.
Last time, by the way, that we saw a chasm like that was the 1980s. Joining us now, co-founder and director of economic policy for Veda Partners, Henrietta Trace. I've been paying attention. I believe we call this the K-shaped economy.
That's it. That's the ticket. Some of us are doing really well, and some of us are experiencing the highest prices, continued inflation. Every single time we shop, it gets more and more expensive. And from coffee in the morning to buying sneakers for your kids later on.
Whoa. I'm not giving away my coffee. All right. That is where I stop. I'm still going to buy coffee. I don't care. Some other things you can have. Kids don't need sneakers every 2-3 months. Okay, every once a year, twice a year. Coffee is every day. Sorry, just had to throw that in there.
On the day, it's everywhere.
How does say if there's a lot of angles to this. If you were the Fed and you're trying to decide on interest rates, how much more complicated does it get if the top 10% is spending a ton and the economy is still going okay, but the rest of the country is not spending, and perhaps if they lose their job, not getting a job, how do you deal with trying to keep a hold of inflation?
What bothers me is, and it's to that point right there, the Fed is focused on the 10% of folks who are making money, who are spending money, right? And it's not really focused on the 90% of the rest of the people who are struggling to the day to get by. Like that for me is like, what are we doing? What are we talking about right now? Again, we're looking at a small subset of people that is ultimately dictating how our country is performing. But the real numbers, the real data is going to show that no, the country is not performing well. The country is actually going backwards, right? When people stop spending money, and again, we got one of the most consumer-driven time periods on the calendar coming up, right? I want to see that data because that's really those 10% are going to buy up all the gifts and the electronics and the shoes and the clothes and give them to the kids. No. So what is the 90% of data really saying, right? And why isn't the Fed driving inflation down for those folks, right? If the numbers just say, hey, where the economy is doing good and we're still in 2025 was great, but 2026 is going to get it better. For who? 2% of the folks that are out there making money and spending money? We live in a very backward society. It's getting more interesting every single day. But I think this is just a new reality that is really starting to hit home for a lot of folks because, again, we were taught, go to college, get a job, right? And we're starting to see that kind of break down. That your degrees, right, aren't really providing the lifestyle that we all hoped. And I'm a part of that. Clark Atlanta University, love it. But now we know, right? How do we move forward from here? We got to get creative. You guys like and subscribe. This is Saving America's Money. Talk to you guys soon. Peace.